Dr. Stephanie, you're back.
Let's figure out how evolution has enabled us to live longer and optimize it from there. So it just provides a whole new perspective.
What does the future of aging look like, in your opinion, as a whole?
Aging should be nothing but good.
For the first time in a long time, health is now being put at the forefront of conversation in this country, and we've needed it.
What did you find was really important to living longer?
There's a whole new world now where longevity equals living healthier, longer.
Dr. Stephanie, you're back. What is the biggest misconception? What do people get wrong about longevity?
I think that one of the biggest misconceptions is that longevity is just living as long as possible, absent health. And so it's really funny that when you talk to people, you'll see a lot of them actually say, I don't want longevity. No, thank you. I don't want to live forever, because they're thinking, I'm going to live a long time, but I'm just going to have more years of being sick. And so it's really interesting. That whole world is changing. So a big misconception is living longer just means eventually I'm going to get sick and then I'm going to be sitting around and suffering for a long time. There's a whole new world now where longevity equals living healthier, longer. We get to enjoy our lives a lot longer.
It's like the distinction between lifespan and health span. Those two worlds are merging together.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, because unfortunately, I had a grandmother and she lived, I think, till like 96. But she was unfortunately diagnosed with dementia, Alzheimer's. And so like 20 years of that, honestly, after she retired, which is why I'm never going to retire, was kind of spent in not the best quality, right? I think that's what a lot of people fear, something like that. Exactly.
And we're all seeing it, right? So especially when we talk about dementias and Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, that we're witnessing this. And so there are a lot of people are saying, no, thank you to longevity. But again, just a brave new world, exciting new world where, the science is advancing, where exactly we can have our health span extended so that we can live longer and enjoy the entirety of that life.
With all your research that you've done, what do you think are the keys to living better if you're going to live longer?
Yeah, so the keys to living better. So there are specific criteria. So there's actually 7 criteria must-haves of a longevity enabler, whether that's exercise, diet, or pills, right? When we talk about like rapamycin or metformin. And those 7 very quickly are the ability to tap into what's called the human regulating pathway, longevity pathway, the ability to target hallmarks of aging. This is how we age at the cellular level. Evidence that we can slow the rate at which we age, the ability to have clinically meaningful benefits within weeks or months, the ability to prevent the onset of diseases that kill us. So we talk about cancer, Alzheimer's disease, type 2 diabetes, and fatty liver disease and heart disease. And then the last 2 are the simplest, but they're actually the most difficult. And that is interventions that help in which we can do them reliably and have access to them throughout our whole lives and have them be safe. So when you put in all of those together, if you have something in which you can do that can do all of that, Lauren, that's something that's called, it's like the holy grail of healthy aging and longevity, and that's called a geroprotector. It's not a very sexy word, but geroprotector is something that protects us against the onset of these chronic diseases that in the end take us down.
So I want to get very focused with you on this episode. Not that we weren't before,
right.
But for people who are just being introduced to Dr. Stephanie, we did a whole episode. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but if you just look it up, Dr. Stephanie, Venn-Watson, and The Skinny Confidential, you'll see it in our shows. And we talked all about everything that you're doing with Fatty 15 and the groundbreaking discoveries that you found with dolphins and all this. People should go back and listen to that episode. I think this is a continuation kind of sorts of that conversation. You didn't have the book at that time, but you hinted at it. Now you have the longevity nutrient. So to kick it off, why did you decide to write this book?
So I was asked. Simon & Schuster actually reached out. They were watching. We have a blog that comes out every week, a healthy aging blog, and they were kind of witnessing the science, all the science that was coming out about C15, but also just longevity in general. And amazingly, they reached out and said, Steph, we would love for you to write a book about longevity. And so, 8, 10, 12 months later, here it is.
And what is different about this book that people will find interesting compared to some of the other things that have come out in the space? Because obviously this topic is now becoming a big topic. You have people like Brian Johnson and Peter Attia, and this is what I'm excited about is people are really putting a focus on this. But what makes this one different?
Yeah, it is a super hot space, right? We're talking about longevity. What's different about this one was really had to do a lot with serendipity, and in which we're understanding where the science is where we can understand how we can live longer. These must-haves of a longevity nutrient and molecule, which people are understanding, and those are covered in a lot of these other books. There's a lot of consistency there. What's unique about this book is, this was an accidental discovery that while a lot of research looking into how we can live longer, what are interventions we can do, are based on short-lived species like mice, worms, and flies. And then you're saying, okay, well, we helped the worm live 2 weeks instead of 1 week. Therefore, we doubled its lifespan. And how can that apply to improving our longevity? This book focuses on, an accidental discovery, as we had talked about, in long-lived large-brain mammals, dolphins. And what we're able to do is that this book walks through this fascinating 20-year, adventure and journey where we made this discovery in dolphins. It allowed us to basically jump, have C15, this discovery, jump to the front of the line. Because if you think about it, nature has already unlocked longevity. We already live 37 times longer than a mouse. So why start with short-lived species? Let's figure out how evolution has enabled us to live longer than a mouse, worm, or fly, like humans and dolphins have, and optimize it from there. So it just provides a whole new perspective into longevity. And the last part of it is the book includes not just our research on C15, the discoveries from dolphins, but now wonderfully, it's just the tale of the research that unfolded throughout the world from dozens and dozens of labs.
When you were researching this subject, you mentioned broad things, but from a more granular level, what are things that people can do today to improve their longevity?
Okay, so there's the basics because I gotta say them, right?
Yeah,
so because it would be remiss to not say it. So exercise, we all understand is being able to move. Number one. Number two is obviously a healthy diet, staying away from especially pro-inflammatory foods that can increase pro-inflammatory state and accelerate aging. Getting good sleep. And making sure that we maintain sleep, and increasingly an appreciation for socialization. That when people stop socializing and stop having a sense of community and purpose, then that can shorten lives.
Yeah, it's so funny is I think it's relevant to cover the basics because I was talking to Lauren the other day and I was saying, listen, I don't want to hear about seed oils and EMFs and fluoride in the water and all these things which are relevant to look at from somebody who hasn't got their sleep in order, hasn't managed their personal relationships, doesn't exercise and get metabolically in shape. Like you got to do those things before we worry about Wi-Fi radiation frying your brain. You know what I mean? Like
that's exactly right.
And I'm not saying that to diminish those discoveries or spaces or people that are calling things like that to attention, but you kind of, there's some things that we can do to kind of mitigate against some of those things that if you're not doing, it kind of makes the other stuff moot.
Exactly. I did just buy an EMF protector blanket though.
Yeah, fine.
And I do have EMF protector rocks in my drawers next to our bed that you don't know about.
But let me just say, like,
and I do have an EMF sticker on my phone.
But you do that. But like, if somebody's sleeping 3 hours a night and saying their hormones are out of control and it's because of the fluoride in the water or because of EMFs coming from Wi-Fi, I'm like, well, let's first get 7 to 8 hours and then we'll look at the other stuff.
What did you find though with supplements? Like, what did you find was really important to living longer?
Right. So interestingly, when we look at, when we talk about those 7 criteria of a longevity enhancing molecule, then the leaders of the ones that are on the top of that leaderboard, before C15 science came along, they're all drugs. So it's rapamycin, metformin, acarbo. So all of these are prescription drugs that basically have been repurposed and evaluated, in which they have found like, oh gosh, in addition to treating these diseases, we're actually finding they have these multiple effects that check off the boxes until you get to the last 2 criteria, right? Which is, especially with rapamycin, the ability to safely take it over long periods of time. That's proving out to be less true.
It sounds very similar to semaglutide.
Yeah, that is right.
It's metformin is on the same frequency as that. It's like, it sounds like it does a lot of things short term wise, but we really don't know what it does long term wise. So it's kind of a catch-22, isn't it?
It is, exactly, Lauren. So we're gaining insights into how we tap into these various longevity pathways, how we slow down cellular aging. And when they put them into the lab, they're working well. And then when we look at them early studies in humans, it's looking promising. But the problem with drugs is that drugs are used long time among people who are ill and have a disease. What we don't know, Lauren, to the point that you're making, is we don't know necessarily how that plays out in people who are otherwise healthy. So working through, and that's where C15 comes in with regard to, this is a molecule, an odd chain saturated fatty acid that's every mammal gets from birth, right, in milk, and that we've now come to understand strengthens cells and helps enable longevity, what we had talked about. And this is something that, we're meant to get throughout our whole lives. And so we know that it's safe and that it's actually a molecule that we've evolved to use to enable longevity. Not we, but nature has.
Well, I told you when you walked in that I've been taking Fatty 15, C15, since we met that day. So I don't know how many days that's been, but it's got to be close to like 75 or 90 days, maybe longer.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I feel great. And again, people should go back and listen to that full episode to get the full context. I wonder, based on your research, I don't know if you have this data or not, how much weight is applied to longevity pending our genetics versus our lifestyle versus, our environment. Like, are there some people that have certain genetics where it's like they're going to live a really long time compared to others? Is it some like, hey, you're going to shorten that based on an environment? Like, do you have data that shows that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there are data that show that. So I'll share those versus what I've had one lifetime thus far. So share what others have worked on too. But we do know genetics absolutely plays a role in a lot of things. We know, like, for example, Eric, my husband's grandmother lived to 104, and his mom is she's out there skiing on Black Diamond skis, and she's 80. So Eric's got a really good chance at living a long time because of genes. Even genes have a factor on things like the gold standard for what can help things live longer is fasting. So fasting actually creates that whole human longevity regulating pathway that if we fasted, so we decrease our calories to like 1,200 or 1,000 a day, which isn't sustainable, not recommended, you theoretically would live longer. So,
and in what window, like, are you suggesting? Because people are going to want to know detail.
Yeah, so it's actually not recommended. So what they do is they've done this this is the short-lived animal models. And so they've been able to show reliably that whether you're a worm, a mouse, a fly, and even a dog, if a dog is fed less, that it can extend its lifespan by like 6 months. So, which is meaningful if you have a dog. Yeah. I'll take those 6 months, right? So they've shown that even this gold standard pathway for longevity, even that, a paper just came out this over the last couple of months showing that even that is driven by genetics. So your genetics determine how well even something like fasting will influence how much it impacts your longevity. That's where, Dr. Nick Shork, he's head of the NIH's Longevity Consortium. And Nick came in, and what he was excited about with C15 is he said it's absent of genetic influence. And he said if you have something that's an essential fatty acid, so it's an essential nutrient that every mammal, and now we're even realizing worms and mice need in order to develop and grow and live, then it is absent of genetic influence. And there's a big study that was done looking at genes and C15, and it showed that there was no genetic predisposition to how well C15 worked. So it's really interesting. And undoubtedly, environment has a huge impact. What we eat, what we drink has a huge impact. And that's where the dolphins really became a fascinating patient population because they were absent a lot of those risk factors, right? They aren't eating ultra-processed foods. They're exercising every day. They have the same level of health care. And yet we were seeing some dolphins developing these age-related diseases, including Alzheimer's, including fatty liver disease and hyperglycemia. So we had some developing these diseases and some not, despite being in the same environment. So that's where we were able to learn a lot about aging from them.
Are you seeing any like copycats or claims being made that are maybe trying to be like C15 on the market, or is there really nothing like it?
We've had people. Yeah, we have had that. That's
What do you do? Because you guys have.
You can see I'm stepping carefully. Yeah. That is a sign of success, right? Is
Sure.
when,
Absolutely.
when you have reached the point where there are others that are, doing a copycat.
I just want our audience to know what to look out for, because you do it's a very specific thing that you do. Like, is there things that you should caution them against when they're buying this?
I guess thank you, Lauren. That's a really good point, that there is something very specific, which was surprising for us. So it's C15 is also called pentadecanoic acid. It sounds a lot like pantothenoic acid, which pantothenoic acid is actually vitamin B5, which is completely different molecule, completely different functions. And there have been some not intentional mistakes of thinking that vitamin B5 is the same as this C15. So just for everyone to know that it's a completely different molecule. C15 really has stood out as, again, what earned the title of the longevity nutrient, of being able to have all of this robust data from epidemiological studies, cell-based studies, and now clinical trials, all supporting its role.
If you were to explain to a kindergartner why you think it's the longevity nutrient, what would you say?
That we, as long-lived species, have evolved to use C15 to make our cells stronger, which help us live longer.
And so when you take it, it increases your lifespan, essentially.
Yes.
Okay.
I was saying, okay, so I've been taking the product, and we are in the sick season. Especially we have young kids that are in school, and like they bring home the plague every other day.
It's unbelievable. They're done sick with sick. It's another sick.
And parents out there with young kids starting school now.
Holy God.
I can't believe some of the things they bring home. It's just, and how frequently. Like you think and they recover quick.
Oh yeah.
But the parents not.
I also kiss them on the lips, and people get mad on his social. I love kissing my kids on the lips and the cheeks and the face.
And they're also so sweet when they're sick.
I know.
Right? They want to cuddle with
and
you.
so I just am like, well, but you haven't gotten sick.
No. So what I was going to say, and I told you out there, I have not been sick one time in probably 6 months, and my entire household and everyone around me has been sick. And I keep
Thank
thinking
God,
and I'm
because
not,
if I have to hear about you being sick on top of the children being sick, I'll just.
But and I'm not doing anything differently other than I'm taking this, and I was wondering if this is again maybe it's just like mind over matter. But I'm like, okay, if my inflammation is so down, then my body's got an even stronger chance. And I wonder if there's any validity
This
to
is
that.
the narrative in the car. His inflammation is so down that he doesn't get sick.
Because you would think,
is that a thing?
Like,
That's what
I'm
he
next
says.
to my wife and I'm next to my kids and I'm not guarding myself, and I'm like, okay, here it comes, and it just never comes. I'm like, either I've gotten out of that phase, or
I can't. You've gotten out of the phase of getting sick?
well, I don't know. Maybe, but
my God.
I'm wondering if this research and this
unbelievable.
and
You're not like Batman.
Yeah, well, maybe now. If the C15 does anything to create better resilience for the body to fight off viral illnesses, or if this is just my mind.
So the couple of things. So it's yes and no as far as is the science there. So yes, absolutely. Lots of studies showing that it's anti-inflammatory with regard to it calms down an overactive immune system, which when you have an overactive immune system, you're setting yourself up for hyperreactivity to problems. Like, for example, when people got COVID, the danger came at the end when you developed these cytokine storms, right, in the lungs. And then your pro-inflammatory state has these big storms, and that's what caused the end stage really scary time. And so things that were anti-inflammatory were basically the target of that. I'm not saying take C15 to avoid COVID or its downstream complications, but it's just an example of inflammation and viral infections. We do know, and so being able to have a balanced immune system, Michael, is critical to be able to fight off infections. There's great studies that have been coming out, again, from other folks showing that C15 has antimicrobial properties. So it actually effectively can stop the growth of pathogenic, bad bacteria and fungi. Interestingly, same way rapamycin does. And there is one study, which is a little bit of a stepchild, but it does show that people with higher C15 who had dengue fever, which is a virus, are less likely to develop severe forms of it. So it's association, but a lot of interesting work being done in that
Because then
area.
I was even wondering, I'm like, I felt like I was like, I wonder if the tickle's coming on. I'm like, no, my body just shut it down right away. You know what I mean?
You know what's so great?
She's just mad that she got sick.
It's just amazing how he has to narrate this to me. Like there's a whole narration that's like an inner monologue that I have to hear in the car. So it's like, I wonder why I'm not sick today. You're sick. I think it's because my inflammation levels are so low. I took Patty 15.
In a marriage?
It's a whole narration. It's like I literally am in his brain 24/7.
Is it healthy in a marriage to compete on immune systems? I don't know.
I think it's good to have a little competition.
I'd be like,
Let's
ooh,
talk
your immune
about
system.
Lauren's creating life, so it's
That's true.
you're at
My favorite thing is when he goes, "What's wrong with you? Why are you so tired?" I'm like, I would like to know what it's going to be like for my future baby to be having C15 every day.
So this is a great question based upon, and the answer, which is evolving, is based upon a whole suite of studies that have been done in the last year from entirely independent different teams. These are teams in Canada and France, and I'm trying to think of where the last one is, but they're following cohorts of pregnant moms from their third trimester, following them through baby being born, and then following that child through 6 years old. And these studies are showing that the more C15 mom has from her diet, the more she has in her body, especially by eating cheese. So cheese is a specific food that they've shown in those studies.
I love cheese.
So there you go. You just got your go for it card. Okay. And then, so then from there, the more C15 mom has, with regard to the fetus, the better body growth, better head circumference, which is a sign of brain growth, and the better size of the body. So not just how much it grows, but the size of the body. This translates over to the infant. And so the more C15 mom has in her body, the more she has in her milk. And so the more baby gets from mom's milk, then the better that baby grows and develops. And these studies that follow infants and children out to 6 years old are showing that these 6-year-olds have better overall cognitive development of language skills and cognition scores than others. These are associations, but at the same time, there have been really exciting studies coming out, kind of doing these gold standard studies in rodents, where they are able to do more experimental things in which they make the mom C15 deficient, the mama rat or mouse, and then the baby is born C15 deficient. It has deficiency, poor growth. And when they give that new mouse or rat C15, it fixes the deficiency and they catch up to normal. So it's a really exciting time. So when we talk about longevity, we're talking about the earliest stages of life and the concern and the urgency around C15 deficiencies that more and more people, including pregnant moms, have low C15. And how is that translating to, the baby being born all the way through the rest of their life? We're seeing a lot of, increased onset of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, fatty liver disease in younger people. And the question is, given I think what we shared last time, knowing that lower C15 creates a nutritional deficiency syndrome called cellular fragility syndrome that accelerates aging. And so are we doing this at the youngest years? So it's a big part of the book is to help increase awareness of all the science behind it, not just ours, but others, and just really get conversations like this going.
You guys should do a gummy for kids.
You're right.
Please do a gummy because my kids are 2 and 4 and they can't take a pill.
Or even a tablet. It doesn't have to be, if it's like
a tablet they could suck. I tried to get them to take a pill the other day. They looked at me like, what are you talking about? To the 2-year-old, I'm like, you put it in your mouth and you take a sip and swallow. And he was like, what is this bitch talking about?
You've got the same with our 16-year-olds.
Then I started sprinkling it, you don't even know this, in their pancakes and opening it up and putting it in their pancakes because I'm like, it's something. But if you could do a gummy, it would be so efficient.
Or even like a pill. But anyways, you'll figure it out.
I would love a gummy. I'm just saying.
All right. Well,
I really would love like a
Lauren gummies.
raspberry.
On
oh, we got the
lemonade.
flavors.
Yeah, I'd like a flavor.
On that note,
Great.
for adults or people that, okay, they're listening and they say, wait a minute, I want my C15, and maybe we covered this a bit on the last episode. I want my C15 level strong. Are they able to like replete or like calibrate their
We didn't.
levels?
You didn't ask that. I want to know that. Yeah,
Like,
if they have low.
Like say you should be at
Uh-huh.
X level and
That's a
they're
good
low
question.
because they don't have it, but their diet or lifestyle factors, can they start to build that level back up? And I wonder if this period of time that I've been taking it, if I've built back up.
Yeah, there's a great chance. So we absolutely know that by taking these are based upon 4 different clinical trials in humans, that if you take eat more C15, and these clinical trials were on the pure C15 supplement, but the same counts for food too. If you eat more C15, your C15 levels will go up.
Which are what foods?
So dairy fat. So for the most part, dairy fat is by far our leading source of C15 from food. The upside of it is that we know it's pretty reliably in dairy fat. We talked a little bit about like if cows are fed corn, they have half as much C15 in their fat than cows fed grass. So their influence is there. But getting whole dairy fat is a really good source of C15, especially in our younger years. So if you think about mammals, all mammals drink milk, right, when they're babies. And then at some point they stop eating dairy, right? So no other species except for us, mammalian species, really keeps eating dairy. And so what we're learning is that there are pluses and minuses to dairy over long periods of time. And that's why the Navy funded us for 10 years to basically say, can you take this molecule, C15, find a way to optimize it, make it bioavailable, and take away all the complications of dairy fat. There's over 400 fatty acids in dairy fat. Only 1% of those are C15, 40% are pro-inflammatory. So it's like, how can you take this good fat and then make it, readily optimize it so we can get those levels. So yes, we can take C15, raise our levels. Your doctor can test for your C15 levels. There's even an at-home C15 test to see basically where you're at.
Okay,
How quickly can they do that?
So your C15 levels can go up as early as within 2 weeks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it's very quick response. Our bodies were really, think of us like sponges and we're just ready to get that C15 into our bodies.
So quick follow-up, can I take too much? To the point like where you if you have too much vitamin D3 or too many B, can you do that?
There isn't too much, as far as there's been no evidence that you could take too much C15 with it being a health risk or a risk factor. So it's a great question, Michael. There are some studies supporting that there's like a maximum benefit. So it's almost like once you get too much or too high, you're not gaining any more benefit from it. And so that's this, when we look at these levels, that's, around this in our blood, this 50 micromolar level, our ranges are usually between 10 and 50 micromolars in our blood. Once you get above that, there's not really, which is why we always.
But it's not harmful.
Yeah, it's not harmful.
Like it's not like you
exactly.
take too many B vitamins or too much iron or you don't get to a point where it's like, hey, you're imbalancing.
Yeah, no evidence to support.
Okay.
Yeah, no evidence to support that.
Whenever I do my skincare routine, I want my skin to look like dolphin skin. You know what that kind of
Yeah.
skin, how it's like.
how your skin looks.
Well, thank you. I'll take it. That's why I've always wanted to touch and ride a dolphin.
We're not going back into this
Because
again.
that's why, because their skin is so beautiful. Do you think that obviously like they have that skin, but do you think that part of it is because they have so much C15? Does it affect your skin and beauty benefits?
It very well may. And we know that when people take C15, that it gets, all of our cells are meant to have a certain amount. 0.2% of every cell membrane should have C15 in it. And C15 is this sturdy fatty acid that helps keep them stable and strong. So this includes our skin cells. And if you think about, the biggest problem a lot of people have with skin is it gets irritated and dry, which feeds inflammation. And then that helps. It's not able to maintain its moisture. And that's a common underlying manifestation of nutritional deficiencies in general. This includes the omega-3s, omega-6, but C15 as well. So
I noticed when you were talking about dolphin skin, you were looking at Lauren, and then you said irritated and dry, and looked directly at me.
yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry.
Edit this part out of the show.
Did you put this
Yeah, no.
colostrum
You also have
cream
beautiful
on?
skin, Michael. Yeah.
He works at it.
Right?
He works
It
really
was because
hard.
we were talking about inflammation.
okay.
Just to
It's
clarify.
okay.
Just
He
to clarify.
I
steals
need to
my
excuse myself for a
skincare.
minute.
You wouldn't believe it. He steals my skincare out of my drawer. And I catch like him having my vitamin C, my colostrum serum, like my oil, all kinds of things.
Hey, listen, if I get the information, I will follow the protocol.
There you go.
I will follow the instructions. Let's talk about a new show that is now airing on Netflix called Running Point. Kate Hudson is comedy gold in Netflix's hilarious new series Running Point from Mindy Kaling, the genius behind Never Have I Ever in the Mindy Project. When a scandal rocks the Los Angeles Waves, one of the most iconic pro basketball teams, Isla Gordon, steps up to run the family business. Sure, her brothers and the board aren't thrilled, and the sports world is raising eyebrows, but Isla, she's about to show everyone she can run the game better than anyone expected. She's calling the shots, like it or not. This sharp, edgy, and hilarious comedy serves up the perfect mix of dysfunctional family drama, and trust me, you'll want to catch every minute of Kate Hudson proving the haters wrong while everyone tries to block her shot. Running Point is now streaming only on Netflix. Get ready to binge your new favorite comedy. Check it out. Again, it's called Running Point, and it's now streaming on Netflix.
I get so much of my homeware on Jenny Kane. So Dorit from Beverly Hills Housewives introduced me to this brand. She's a fashionista, so stylish. And she told me, she's like, Lauren, you have to check out their cashmere sweaters. Their pants are really comfortable. I am a cashmere lover. And when I'm home, I like to be really comfortable. And Jenny Kane just does it better than anyone. First of all, they have tons of colors in cashmere. If I were to tell you to start with a sweater, I would either get their cashmere fisherman sweater, which you can tuck into a trouser. I wear it all the time to podcast. But I also like their cashmere Stevie Polo. I got the Stevie Polo in their pewter, which is like a light kind of gray. It's beautiful. The sleeve is right. It's very flattering to the body how they cut. And all of their products just are so classic. Like, I feel like you can have them forever. If you guys have not stocked their cashmere section, you have to. And this is so random, but I also get all my trash cans on Jenny Kane. They have these beautiful trash cans that I have in each of my bathrooms. I got them in white. Find your new spring uniform at Jenny Kane, and our listeners get 15% off your first order when you use code SKINNY15 at checkout. That's 15% off your first order at JENNIKAYNE.com, promo code SKINNY15. Let getting dressed be one less thing to worry about. This episode of The Him and Her Show is brought to you by Wild Grain. You know what I love when I'm pregnant? Sourdough. That's right. With all 3 kids, I love a crunchy, lightly toasted piece of sourdough with some sea salt on top. Sometimes I even add some raw honey. It is so good. Such a nice way to wind down. It's like a nightcap for me. The brand that I've been using is so popular. It sells out all the time. It's on Wild Grain, okay? If you haven't heard of Wild Grain, you have to check them out. Wild Grain is the first bake from frozen subscription box for artisanal breads, pastries, and pastas. The sourdough is the way to go. It's called the plain sourdough loaf. It's made with super minimal ingredients. There's like a sourdough starter, organic whole wheat flour, some sea salt, and cornmeal. It's very simple. It has so many reviews. Like, people are obsessed with it. Even my sister-in-law texts me that she loves this sourdough. You have to try it. But if you're on there, you gotta try the croissants too. I love bread. I'm a bread person, so I think you're going to like this site. Wild Grain's boxes are fully customizable to your taste and dietary restrictions. Are you ready to bring all your favorite carbs right to your doorstep? Be sure to check out Wild Grain so you can begin building your own box of artisanal breads, pastas, and pastries. For a limited time, Wild Grain is offering our listeners $30 off the first box, plus free croissants in every box. Go to wildgrain.com/skinny to start your subscription. You heard me. Free croissants in every box and $30 off your first box when you go to wildgrain.com/skinny. That's wildgrain.com/skinny, or you can use promo code skinny at checkout. I would like to know what the key changes are needed in how society approaches aging. What are some things that need to be changed?
Oh boy, that's a big question.
Yes, I'm sure.
There are a couple of things. I mean, if we go bigger scale with regard to how we approach aging, right, is that aging should be nothing but good, right? If we removed the increased risk of disease and our breakdown with age, right? Then, and you left how many years you're getting in experience in life and you continue to be healthy, then the back half of our life should be amazing, right? When you have that time, and I'm bragging about it now because I'm 52 and enjoying it very much so. Our kid is 16 years old now. And, and I loved those first 50 years, but the ability for us to approach aging as something that we want to be able to lean in and be able to do the things. And, one way that's a good way to think about it is, Lauren and Michael, if I asked you, if you had an extra 2 hours of every single day, guaranteed 2 free, guilt-free hours of time, what would you do with it?
I want to hear what you do.
2 hours guilt-free time. I don't know, some pretty good video games out right now. No,
No, are you being serious?
No, that could be it. I mean,
no. I would
do not lie.
I would honestly probably spend, I would probably spend that time a little bit more on myself. Now, that being said,
wow,
I'm being honest.
Wow,
I've got 2
what
kids.
about me?
I'm
What
in
the fuck
trouble
am I,
now.
chopped liver?
Listen, I'm being honest. I've got 2 kids under 5, another on the way. I've got a business. I've got team members. We do the show.
A wife.
I've got a wife. And so a lot of my energy goes into those buckets first. And
Okay.
I work myself in. But if I had 2 uninterrupted hours, I would probably be doing, more time for myself.
Wow.
All right, so that's good. So then, Lauren, what about you? You're going to say I want
was
to
going
spend
to
it
give
with
a better
Michael.
answer, but I'm going to get really selfish. I would definitely read for one of those hours.
That's for yourself.
Yep, that's right. And the other hour, I would probably spend it with my family.
Yeah.
Michael is very cerebral, introspective, needs a lot of time to recharge
Yeah.
by himself.
Need
He's always
need
been
about
like
2
that.
more hours,
But
to be honest.
you've been like that since you were 12 years old. I know when to step off the gas. That's honestly why I think the key to our marriage is I know when to just give him some space. I let him go up to his cupboard upstairs.
There's a lot of inner work that needs to take place for me to take on.
Great, I could use a break.
the
It gives
duties
me a
of the
break.
day.
That's self-care for me. Get away
Yeah.
from
I think that's right. And so the point, and then the point of this being is that everybody has an answer
Right.
pretty quickly.
What's your answer?
And so mine's super dorky. And I don't know
Dork it
about
up.
2 hours, maybe for at least a half an hour
Okay.
a day, I would do origami. And I just,
I like
because it's I just love the idea of just taking a piece of paper and folding it and creating something. And it's just
origami. That's a good one.
for me. And I love doing it. And yet I never do origami because I never have enough time. So the bigger picture point is, being able to walk yourself through that question is saying, well, then the whole point of longevity is to have more time to do the things we love.
Yep.
And so aging should actually be celebrated, in which the further we get along in the years, the more time, hopefully, we have for ourselves to be able to enjoy all of those things that we want to do. And, and that's where really aging needs to be focused. And that then means helping us as we get older, ensuring we have community, ensuring we have opportunities for exercise and quality of life, all so we can help answer that question for you. I mean, which,
Yeah. I get exactly. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is the reason it's not family or business or these other things is because I feel like I put those things as the priorities right now. And also I take care of myself. I do things. But if I'm being dead honest and I had an extra 2 hours where all of those other things were satisfied, I played with my kids and I've spent time with my wife and I've done my responsibilities with the company, I'd probably say, okay, selfishly then once those things are done, if I had an extra 2 hours, I'd probably be like, hey, let's do something else for me.
It would do
bonus.
nothing to do with my phone.
oh,
By the
that's
end
a
of the
big
night,
one.
I'm so sick of my phone by the end of the night. I notice it even in the morning. I find it to be such a disruptive distraction, and the longer I have it, the more disruptive I find it. I almost get grossed out by it.
I know what you're talking about. And
You
it
know?
just becomes a cycle and so it's just, I feel like we need to rethink aging, and then we can say, okay, what would I want to be able to do later in life? And then even being able to bring that back around to say, well, why can't I make that time happen now? Because we've got one life. And so it's just being able to kind of think about it almost, kind of backtracking to say what's best, what would I love to do in the future? And then why can I incorporate that?
You need to be doing more origami.
I need to be doing exactly. And why am I not? Like, it's just, and so it's just
get her some origami. That's a great
But
gift.
I think cuts. As you were asking the question, and it's a pretty deep, enlightening question.
Wear gloves.
Actually, for people to think about. Like, I was thinking as I was going to answer, I'm like, well, I thought like I went in my brain for a while, and I was like, if my answer was I need to spend more time with my kids, it's probably an indication that I'm not doing that enough right now. Or if the answer was like, oh, I better spend time with my wife. But the point is, I think if people think about that question, and that is like maybe their answer is something that maybe they could recalibrate and put the focus into now. I actually think that in a weird way, it's good to say I'd spend more time myself because I'm focused on a lot of the things that are very important. Like I don't have I need to spend more time with my kids. I spend a lot of time with my kids, or with my wife. I'm not saying I'm so great, but I was just thinking as people, like it would be a shame if you're like, oh, I wish I could spend more time with my wife, which would indicate that I don't spend time with her.
Yeah, it makes sense. And in a big, another big purpose of writing the book, The Longevity Nutrient, it shares science, and yes, there's a whole lot of it in there in the adventure and the journey of the discovery around C15 and understanding how longevity works and how do we discover these molecules. It's also, the hope is it inspires people to say like, gosh, this is the life I've been given. I was able to, have this amazing opportunity to pursue my passion, to fight for it. And, that's living. And to help inspire others to say that do the same with your life. Because, and then how wonderful that C15 can help people do just that.
With all the developments that are coming out and all the science and the social media and even like the amazing
technology,
celebrity facelifts that you can't even tell, like what does the future of aging look like in your opinion as a whole? And I'm talking about looks, I'm talking about brain, I'm talking about dis-ease, everything.
I think that it would be naive to say that we're not going to be continuing to focus on the external aesthetics as we age. I think that area is going to continue to grow and do just fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think increasingly physicians and healthcare providers and individuals are going to better understand there's more ownership they can take. There are some things out of our control, like genetics, but there are more things we can control that can help us from the inside, right? The ability to help delay the onset of aging, to help enjoy our lives. Cognitive health is a huge one, right? Because even when we think about longevity and we say, even if we're physically able to do things, if mentally we're not, we're kind of stuck in that same situation. So being able to focus more on how to preserve just as much of our cognitive health as our physical health is really just going to be critical to, to protecting, enjoying the benefits of aging without the deficits.
Why have we not seen C15 in more places? Is there just like not enough education on it? Like, why is it not, I'm just making this up, but why is it not like an add-on on your IV if you get an IV vitamin bag? Why is it, I know you guys have it patented, but is that why?
It's really learned. I think there's been barriers up from society that have prevented the large, there are over 100 studies on the benefits of C15 from prestigious research teams throughout the world.
For longevity,
all in support of all of this, like it all, adds up. So it activates AMPK and inhibits mTOR. It, hits 6 different hallmarks of aging. It has meaningful benefits within 12 weeks of, with regard to metabolic, liver, and heart health. We have large-scale epidemiological studies from different populations all over the world showing people with higher C15 have a lower risk of having these conditions. And now these, studies on the young. So the way Nick Shorrock, right, Dr. Shorrock put it, is there is no molecule that has more robust data on its role as a longevity enabler than C15. And he's seen all of it. He runs the NIH's Longevity Consortium. The barrier has been C15 is a saturated fatty acid that's present in dairy fat. And we've been taught for so long that all saturated fats are bad and to purposely avoid butter and avoid whole fat milk because it has saturated fats, that the science is all there. It's just really hard for people to like understand that the dolphins helped us look at saturated fats with a different angle. And now others all around the world have looked at it. So it's really, the scientific world is now understanding it. So we've now had, there have been 3 different groups around the world that have used gold standard studies to actually show that C15 indeed is an essential fatty acid, which means our bodies have to have certain levels of it to maintain our health. That is huge. It's the first essential fatty acid to be discovered in 90 years. So the science is now there. So now it's about translating that science into physicians. We have a growing physician base who are becoming huge advocates of it. Dr. Mark Hyman, Dr. Drew, we have, and then those that have boots on the ground are all seeing it. So it's a groundswell movement. You're part of it.
I hope so. I hope that Paul Saladino and I can continue to talk about raw milk and butter. We go through so much butter in our house all the time. I mean, I'm slapping extra butter on my kids' food to get the butter in. And I mean, I'm a huge raw milk lover. I love dairy. Dairy helped me lose weight, which is so counterintuitive to everything we've been taught. They say it inflames you, you gain weight, et cetera, et cetera. So I do hope that I can, if it's a little bit, just tweak the narrative around it, because it's like a food group. Well, it is a food group. Yeah. It's a food group in our house.
Yeah. And there have been, like, if you looked back at, early in the 1970s or the 1960s, 1970s, 100% of infants at 12 months old had been given cow's milk. Today, it's less than 10%. And so we've removed
it's
cow's
powder
milk. And if you look at infant formula, most infant formula doesn't have C15 in it. So it's just like, how can we change this narrative? It's not, yes, development of a supplement is part of the solution, but there's just so much more that we need to have a conversation around. How do we change dietary practices? How do we, get C15 back into infant formulas? It's a bigger conversation, which, we're excited to be behind.
This episode is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting out or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything from products to content to time, all in one place, all on your own terms. Lauren and I could not be bigger proponents of owning your own platform online. Sure, these third parties are great and you can use them for social interaction as well as promotion, but owning your own platform is more important now than ever. This is why Lauren and I have put such a huge emphasis on our show, our website, our e-com channels, our newsletters, because we actually own all of these things. We're not at the mercy of third parties. So whether you want to start your own content business like we have, if you want to create a product line of your own, if you want to create courses or subscription content, Squarespace can help you do it. It's all cost effective and easy to use. What I love is long gone are the days of having to bring on 18 different designers and developers with all sorts of exorbitant costs. Squarespace can help you develop and create your own website right away. You can also accept payments on Squarespace. You can connect all of your social multimedia accounts right onto one platform. You can sell content. They also have SEO tools. They have everything that you need to build your own online presence, your own online brand, your own online store. So check them out. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, squarespace.com/skinny to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Again, that's squarespace.com/skinny.
My friend Weston has a cat. His cat's name is Winston. So it's like Weston and Winston. And I got him hooked on this brand. Okay. You've got to try it. It's called Smalls. Smalls cat food is protein-packed recipes made with preservative-free ingredients that you'll find in your fridge. When I saw this, I was like, Weston, you got to get Winston off of the food you're feeding him, and you have to try Smalls. He loves it too because it's delivered right to his door. So where I saw this product was cats.com. They named Smalls their best overall cat food. So it's very popular. But what I like is it's protein packed for Winston. My daughter and I will go over to Weston's house. We'll have some pancakes and we'll feed the cat. And we always give him this brand. After switching to Smalls, I learned that 88% of cat owners reported overall health improvements. That's a big deal. So if you have a cat, you got to check this out. The team at Smalls is so confident your cat will love their product that you can try it risk-free, which means they'll refund you if your cat won't eat their food, which is awesome. Weston told me that since making the switch to Smalls, his cat has had fewer hairballs, more energy, and a healthier weight, which is awesome. And Winston's coat is softer and shinier. And the litter box stinks less. What are you waiting for? Give your cat the food they deserve. Head to smalls.com and use promo code SKINNY at checkout for 50% off your first order plus free shipping. That's the best offer you'll find, but you have to use our code SKINNY for 50% off your first order. One last time, that's promo code SKINNY for 50% off your first order plus free shipping.
Quick break to talk about Momentous. Lauren and I are huge fans of Momentous and the supplements that they create. We've had the founder of Momentous, Jeff, on this show to talk about all about the efficacy of their products. What we love is that their products come with some of the highest quality ingredients and certifications. They have an NSF certification, which means every batch is tested for heavy metals, harmful additives, and label claim accuracy. This is the reason they're trusted by all 32 NFL teams and collegiate sports who have to go through some of the strictest regulations when it comes to supplementation. I personally take so many of the Momentous products, but I think some of the standouts are their omega-3 fish oil, which is 1,600 milligrams of EPA and DHA. This is going to support brain function, joint health. It's great for men and women. Every single morning when I wake up, these are the first two supplements I take with my water. They also have an incredibly pure creatine. Lauren and I have talked about the benefits of creatine on this show, whether you're trying to maintain muscle, build muscle, sleep better, have better cognitive function. Taking about 5 grams of creatine per day for most people is going to be an absolute game changer. And again, Momentous has one of the best creatines on the market. What I love about Momentous is not only their testing, but they have these single ingredient formulations, whether that's vitamin D3 or zinc or their omegas or their creatine. There's no additives. There's no random ingredients. There's no things that don't belong there. You just get pure vitamins that have the right dosage for the occasion. So check it out. If you're looking for supplements you can trust with the highest quality ingredients and test, and you've been confused about which brand to trust, you can definitely trust Momentous. All you have to do is go to livemomentous.com/skinny and try it today at 20% off with code SKINNY and start living on purpose. Again, that's livemomentous.com/skinny. Well, I think for the first time in a long time, health is now being put at the forefront of conversation in this country. And we've needed it because, again, we talked about this last time you were here. Like, we can go and run around to different parts of the world and kind of eat whatever we want and really not notice much of it. Like, go and have a bunch of ice cream, whatever. You don't really know. Here, unfortunately, you have to be a little more thoughtful about what you ingest into your body. But I think now, and whichever way you feel politically, what I'm excited about is that this topic of health in this country is at the forefront. And to me, this should be bipartisan, where everyone should just be interested in this topic and living better, and not only better, but longer.
Yeah, completely agree.
For the longest time, like, it's been maybe a little bit more about feelings than some of the science, and maybe a little bit of sweeping under the rug some of the things we've been doing and ignoring some of the things that have been happening. And so, anyways, like, I
it's
hope
exciting time. It's exciting time for nutrition, and and prevention, and individual ownership of your health. I agree. It's a good time for that.
If you could inspire one significant change in the way humans approach aging, what would it be?
It would be socialization. I think we all know about exercise. We all know about diet. And, as our parents get older, my parents included, it's the piece I see that doesn't get addressed enough is that you need interaction. Even my father's losing his hearing, and it's now well understood that losing your hearing can actually speed up the onset of Alzheimer's disease because the brain isn't getting that stimulation.
Makes total sense.
Right. And so things like that are so addressable. We just, it's humanity, right? So, like, providing opportunities and making sure that people aren't in isolation as they age is, for me, is like, it's so easy to address. It should be easy to address. It's something we could all do.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and unfortunately, even though we feel more connected than ever, we're probably a little bit more disconnected than ever.
That's right.
You're talking through screens all the time and feeling like that's enough. But the reason we choose to do this show in person, and I could just as a microcosm observation, is it is completely different sitting with someone here as opposed to talking to them through the screen. Like there is a true disconnect that happens when you communicate with someone on the other side of a screen, even if you feel it's just, there's something about being in the room with someone energetically.
We did like 3 episodes during the pandemic over a screen. And I was like, to Michael, I was like, we're not doing this anymore. I'd rather do a solo episode. It's such a blockage of energy. You can't feel when the person's going to stop talking or start talking. It's just different.
And by the way, you'd be surprised at some of the people that we've turned down on this show because they refuse to come in person.
Good for you.
I would rather not do it than have a conversation that falls flat, where it's like you get a certain marquee guest or something, and then it's like, oh my God, that was just not great because of the in-person circumstances.
Yeah. Connection's important.
Connection. Where can everyone find your book? It's called The Longevity Nutrient, the unexpected fat that holds the key to healthy aging. Pimp yourself out, Dr. Stephanie.
Ooh, all right. Being a nerd, I don't know, Lauren. It's available wherever books are sold. So it's from Simon & Schuster. So it's on pre-sale now, and then books start heading out the door on March 25th.
Michael and I had you on, as he said before, and it was so interesting. We learned so much. We added C15 to our diet. And when we knew you were coming out with this book, we wanted to have you back on. If someone wants to DM you, say hi, they have longevity questions, where can they find you on Instagram?
So probably the best source is through Fatty 15.
Okay.
And then again, I'm a nerd. So on LinkedIn, I'm also available there at LinkedIn.
I have a couple of requests. I'm going to need a formula with C15 in it. I'm going to need
this down, Eric?
a gummy for my kids to give them. I'd also...
Or even just the vitamin, they'll eat those two, the chewable
love
ones.
a little sprinkle that I can put on my top of my dog's food. Those are the things that I need.
There is actually a sprinkle available for your dog.
Oh.
So that is new news. It came out from a group called Pets Best Life. They were the team that had come up with Greenies,
Yeah, of course.
And they're a wonderful husband-wife team. They have a product called Yummy Combs, which was kind of their follow-on. And then now they just came out with Longevity 15, which is powered by Fatty 15 for dogs.
Can I have some of that?
We'll get you. Yeah, we'll absolutely get you.
Maybe I can sprinkle that in my kids' pancakes.
I don't know. Well, it has Himalayan cheese in it. Maybe kids will like it. I don't know.
I mean, I have given my kids raw butter for dogs. Like
because they can only say
because we found raw butter. They only sell raw butter for pets. And
but
so
it's
I was
the same
like,
as human. It's just they can't, for
what's
whatever.
the difference? It's fine. Slap some of that raw butter for pets on my kids' pancakes and serve that shit right up. There's all kinds of things going in those pancakes.
It's like kind of like the same things. Like sometimes if I make a little bit too many eggs, like scramble, like the dogs can eat it's not like a human egg.
Yeah.
It's like,
exactly.
Like the dogs can eat it.
This is the pancake recipe for parents that are listening. Okay. It's banana, a cup of oatmeal, and I think it's 2 eggs. That's it. You mix it up and it makes
you don't
pancakes.
Have to have all the stuff.
So there's no flour, there's no sugar. They love it. You sprinkle a little Fatty 15 in there, maybe a couple vitamins, put a little raw butter for dogs on there, and serve it up.
There we go.
I'm a fucking cook if I've ever seen one.
That's the next book. That's it.
How to trick your kids into eating healthy. Dr. Stephanie, thank you for coming on the podcast. We do have a code for you guys to shop their C15 product. I take one of these every single day. And the code is fatty15.com/skinny, or you can use code skinny for 15% off your first purchase. And if you want to nerd out on all the C15 science details, you can go to discoverc15.com. Thank you.
It was
Thank you for doing this.
Thanks. It was wonderful being here, Michael. Thank you, Lauren.